3.
Welcome to the New York Parrot Literary Corner. I am your host and anchor, Dustin Pickering. We have today as our guest, Tina Wittendorff Mortensen, and let her tell herself about her work and who she is. So go forward with that, Tina.
Yeah, I'm Tina. I come from Denmark, and I come from Denmark, but I live in France. I have recently published my first YA fantasy novel. I have it here in case you wanted to see it.
Mm-hmm.
It's not my first book. Actually, I have another book published in Denmark, but it's written in Danish, and it's not fantasy. It's kind of mixed between fact and fiction. So this is my first time writing fantasy books, and since I started writing that, the ideas have just been coming out. It's really great. I feel like I really found myself when I started writing this type of fantasy.
So what made you move that direction? Was it maybe reading a specific work, or was there a prompt to move towards young adult fantasy novels?
I'm actually not sure, because I've always loved writing, and even as a kid I wrote a lot of short stories and everything. I just think I hadn't gotten the idea for the right book yet, and then slowly this idea was starting to build in my mind, and I would start having dreams about it at night, and this world was taking shape. And the same with the characters. So I just started writing a bit and a bit and a bit more, and it took me 3 years to write this book, because it was my first time writing this kind of book, and I wanted to make sure that it was absolutely perfect before I published it. I've already written the second one, and it's ready to come out here in August, and the third one is written as well, actually. So it was just getting through that first book, and then after that, it's just the books have more or less been writing themselves. So that's really great.
So you're actually, I think, the first novelist we've interviewed. So maybe for other novelists or people wanting to be novelists, how did you come across the first sentence to write, or was there something else before that? Would you maybe give us an idea of the process of actually thinking on writing the book?
I think I read as well. I think most authors do, and to me, when I read, I really, really love to escape reality for a little while. And I think I've always had this dream that I really wanted someone to read my work and have the same experience I had when I was reading other great books, because I've read a lot of great books. But it was hard to find out how to write this. It took a lot of practice. Especially because my first book, written in Danish, was very unpolished compared to this one. I think personally that my current book is way better. It was not a problem for me to write in English. It was more a problem to get into this type of new world, this type of writing, because it was very different from what I had written before. But I also found out that it was what I wanted to do.
So did you start from the beginning, from scratch, or was there a moment like, did you, some writers may start wherever they feel convenient? How did you get started writing the book?
I think I started writing the first draft, just the first couple of chapters, and then I stopped for a long time. I went back, I had a look at the first couple of chapters, and I was thinking, wow, this is terrible.
Oh, really? Yeah, self-reflective.
Yeah. And that happened a couple of times, and then I just got more ideas. Even though I wrote something and it was terrible, the ideas kept coming because I was writing. If I stopped writing, the ideas they were not really there. But if I wrote, even though what I wrote wasn't good, I just got more and more ideas, and then I started filling in all the gaps, and then I think I edited the book 10 times or something.
Oh, wow. Quite an endeavor. I think it's what 450 pages or something like that. Is that this number of pages?
Printed length is 470, so around that.
Wow, incredible.
Thanks.
Um,
It's not even considered that long
right.
for a novel.
Right. That I mean that is a lot of work. I mean there's quite a bit of effort that goes into that discipline. So how is your writing schedule? Do you just write when you feel up to it, or you say that you're writing what the ideas don't come when you're not writing? So maybe you could tell us a little bit about your daily habits of writing.
Yes. At the moment, I'm really in a writing mode, so I write every day, and I probably write between 3,000 and 6,000 words every day at the moment.
Right.
Also because I have the time, because of the curfew here in France, we can't leave home between 6 p.m. and 6 a.m. anyway, so I might as
Hmm.
well do something with my time. Um, but
Right.
normally, I mean, I experienced writer's block like everyone else. I had a terrible writer's block here in January with one of my books, and then I had to stop writing that for a while, and I started writing a new one instead, because I knew that I had to keep writing to keep getting my ideas. Um, but I just couldn't write that book. I had to write something else. And then for the book that I had a writer's block with, the ideas they kept coming as well because I was writing something else. But I have also experienced periods of time where I just couldn't write and it was so slow. And if it's really that bad, I usually stop for a little while. I don't get any new ideas, but if the motivation is not there, then I also feel that what I write is not so good. And
Right.
it has to be good. I mean, there is no
Mhm.
need to write something as terrible as my first draft for this book and then edit it 10 times. I try not to do that again. I try to be more like, okay, I write when the motivation and when the motivation is there and when the ideas are just amazing, because then
Right.
the writing is fast, the writing is good.
So in your book, do you feel like you relate at all to the narrator of the Soul Wanderer? Do you feel a kinship with that person?
Yes, I definitely do. And yes, I feel like I don't feel that she's me.
Right.
Um, One of my friends who read the book, she said to me, I can recognize you in your writing. But I was like, yes, but I don't feel that my main character is me. She could
Mhm.
be my sister or my best friend. Um, I don't have a sister, but it's not
Right.
that she's my sister in that way, but I feel related to her in that way. I feel that I know her very well, and I adore her, and I like the person she is. And I mean, there are also things about her that I really dislike, but I like the changes that she's going through to become a
Mhm.
better person. Um, and yes, I can definitely relate to her, but she's actually not my favorite character in the
Okay.
book. That's one of the other characters. So the second book I chose to write with like multiple points of views. So it was both the current main character and my favorite character as
Hmm.
well.
I want to read a sentence that I found in the first chapter of the book that I thought was intriguing to me, and I think it says a lot, not just about the storyline from what I've read of it, but also in general. And the sentence goes like this: Considering the everyday battles my people had to fight, I found it interesting how we had created this culture for such a great passion for art. And you also you talk about in the bio that we have of you, how you relate to different cultures, and that makes your work stronger. Can you tell us a little bit about maybe some details on that?
Yes, I don't live in Denmark. I live in France, but I have lived in Hong Kong and in Australia, and I've traveled a lot, especially in Asia. And it doesn't mean that the Asian culture is strongly represented or anything like that in my writing, because I don't. I feel that the Asian culture is something I have borrowed. I love it.
Hmm.
It's amazing, but it's not the culture I grew up in. So I don't think that I could ever reflect it like correctly in a book.
Right.
But the fact that I have seen a lot of different different countries, met a lot of different people, I like to put this variety into my work.
Hmm.
I like that my characters are different. My characters that value different things, and I have created these different kind of communities in my book
Hmm.
that are very separated from each other until they suddenly meet. And they are all very different, and they have different personalities, different values, different cultures. So I think that was how this inspired me in my writing.
Oh, that's interesting. It's a good sort of cultural experience. I mean, when the people of the narrators people in the book, they're not aware of their history, but the narrator goes sort of on a mission to uncover that. Could you kind of, without giving too many details away, obviously people want to be interested in the book.
Yes.
How does some of this process work? I mean, how do they, and what is how does it drive the plot? It's a very interesting concept of uncovering
Yes.
not just your personal history, but your own people have forgotten themselves in a way,
Yes.
and you're uncovering that.
They had forgotten themselves, and they live underwater in different tribes. Each tribe
Mhm.
has got their own skin color, but not like we consider skin color in our world. It's more like green, red, yellow, blue, and so on. And this color reflects their soul. So they are actually
Mhm.
very shocked in a way when they are suddenly brought to a place where a lot of mix of people live, which I find quite interesting. It's not the main part of the plot; it's more a part of the background story.
Mhm.
Um, the the main part of the plot is more like magic and war and
Mhm.
feelings and things like that. But I find it to be an interesting setting for the book, because I also feel that it somehow represents the real world and how we look at other people when we meet them for the first time. Um, yes.
And so that kind of goes back to you exploring different cultures, and so you're kind of creating a world out of your own process, out of your own learning of people. And I mean, is there any particular interesting stories of your travels, any people you've met that factor into your work, that you find interesting?
Um, I think yes, the people I meet, they are. I don't look so much at them like I don't look so much at the culture they're from, but I look more at their personalities. For
Mhm.
example, if I meet a very serious and quiet person, I might like to reflect that in one of my characters. If I meet a very outgoing, very creative person, I like to reflect that in another character. So I'm greatly inspired by people I meet.
Right. And you also teach, correct?
Yes, I'm a teacher.
So does that factor into your work, or do your students and appreciate what you write as well, or do you share it with them at all?
Um, I don't think any of my students have read my work, to be honest.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yes.
But
How
so
does
My
your
where do you?
experience, your travel experience, impact the content of your writing?
I think, yeah, like we talked about before, that the way that I create different cultures in my work, different communities where people have their own values, that's inspired by going around different countries and seeing how people value different things. It's not that the people in my book value the same things as the people in the countries I have traveled to. It's more this idea of how different they are, but they still find something that they have in common, something that's worth fighting for them, no matter who they are.
That's very interesting. And it's sort of like one of the themes that possibly you're exploring is sort of a battle between good and evil. And you also talk about sort of escaping, reality in reading. And do you find that maybe these values are a part that are constructed in the work? Do they draw the reader in, or was that intentional, or is that something you, sort of evolved from your, as you were writing?
I think it just evolved as I was writing, to be honest. I don't feel like anything in this book was intentional at all. It just
Right.
happened over time.
Wow.
More ideas and everything. It just happened.
So there was no actual, so you didn't sit down every day and sit down and think, okay, chapter one, this is what I want to outline for chapter one. It just sort of evolved out of a natural process.
Yes.
Do you
I
find other writers maybe have a different approach, that they plan out what they're going to write, or they just sit down and let the words flow passionately, or do you find that you're different than that, or is it?
I think it really depends on the writer. I think everyone is different. We all have different ways of handling these things, also different ways of dealing with writer's block, for example. Some people, they really push themselves if they have a writer's block. Some people, they just completely quit, don't write at all. Some people aren't able to write 6,000 words a day as I can. Sometimes if I have the whole day to write, I write 10,000. Some, they write even more than me a day. It's very, very different. I also do more outlines now than I did in the beginning. I mean, Soulwanderer is just, it took me so long to write it that I didn't do an outline at all. It just happened slowly with time. But now that I'm writing so much every day, I have an outline because I have so many ideas that if I don't have an outline, I can't keep track of them.
And why are you presenting? I remember in your biography, you stated that sometimes in your dream, you get information, and then when you wake up, you write the content of what? Do you keep dreaming before you write up to now? Is that why it took you also 3 years to finish writing the first series?
I think, I don't know. Actually, that's a very good question. If I dream more now than I did back then, I don't think so. I think I just learned that what I dream at night could actually be used for something. I don't depend as much on my dreams right now as I did back then. Now I also have many ideas while I'm awake. But it was these dreams I had at night that inspired me to write the first one. And now the ideas, they just keep coming even when I'm awake. I see something, I hear something, and I'm like, oh, I can use that for something.
So the novel just sort of possessed your mind now. It's inhabiting you. It won't let you go. You got to write it now. It's gonna make you do it. Yeah, some people say that's exactly how writing happens. It just sort of like strikes you, and you're in the moment. You know, you have to get it out, or it's going to drive you crazy.
Exactly.
So you no longer like to dream again to get your message conveyed or get the ideas anymore. You've advanced to the next stage.
Yes,
Right.
I think so. I still have dreams at night, and if I wake up and I've had an interesting dream, I take my phone and I do a short recording of the dream, and then I go back to sleep. And then when I wake up in the morning, I listen to it and I'm like, oh, okay, that was what I was dreaming. I wonder if I can use that for something.
Does the occult at all factor into the work? Like, did you use, like, I think I remember reading about you using tarot and the tarot deck or something of that nature?
Yes, I have a tarot deck here, and I like it. I don't know how much I believe in it. I think it's a good guidance for some things.
Right.
And I'm probably a little bit spiritual since I write about spiritual things in my books, but I like to include it as an element of magic.
Give it a little extra spark,
because
then, so sort of.
Yeah, a little extra spark in a way. And I like runes as well, being a Dane, and being a fan of the Norse mythology and everything. I like these old languages, these old letters, and also what they represent magically.
Would you like to maybe read a passage or two from the book?
Of course. Sure, then I need glasses. I need them for reading.
Right.
Do you want me to read from the start, or where do you want me to read?
You can, maybe if you want to read the prologue, that would be fine.
Yes, the prologue is, I like the prologue. We are called soul wanderers. We belong to someone in the human world, or more precisely, they belong to us. We can live without them, but they can't live without us. If our time had come, I wouldn't make this the last move in this fight. I didn't care how long I'd have to wait in the underworld for my revenge. Dead people had an eternity of nothingness. I would haunt whomever was strong enough to gather a new army and once again challenge the undying. And I wouldn't leave them be until they had killed these demons. I knew I wouldn't rest in peace until my world was freed from the dark powers. That was my goal. Death wouldn't stop me from achieving it. It would only delay me, but I would never stop fighting the undying. I was born to fight them. It was the purpose of my life. No, not my life, my whole existence. Even after I died, I would still exist at some point, and it would still be my purpose. I didn't get ready with the other warriors as the full moon slowly rose as the only light in the darkness around us. I had my weapons and my armor brought up to my room in the tower. I needed some time alone to feel mentally prepared and ready for the battle. I put on the golden fish scale armor and studied my marble sword. I like my knife better, but I couldn't do much fighting with it. Anyway, I put it on my belt so I could carry the knife with me. I didn't like leaving it behind either. I sensed something moving on my table. The tarot cards were calling for me. They had something to tell me. I realized I hadn't been using them for quite a while as I picked up the first card in the stack. Three of Cups, friendship. Have you missed me? I heard a familiar voice behind me asking. Tahiga. I turned around. There she was, or her ghost at least. It meant that blood would be spilled tonight, but that didn't come as a surprise to anyone.
What's happening there? It's very suspenseful. I think it brings out, what's gonna, there's something important happening, momentous. Could you maybe tell us a little bit about the what condition you're setting there for the book?
Yes. So this is the preface of the book. So it's a part of the book, but it's not the start.
Right.
It's a bit of a teaser for what's coming, because I really like these teasers at the beginning of a book. Instead of just starting with the boring stuff at the beginning that explains the whole thing, explains the whole setting, I think it's very interesting to start like this, kind of in the middle of all the action, and then you go to the start of everything. So this is after everything has, well, not after everything has happened, but everything has built up to this moment where they're actually going to fight the evil, and she's meeting her friend who has already died because of these creatures that they're fighting.
Oh, that's interesting. And so they're in the underworld, and these are people from the tribes that are under the sea, correct? So
Yes.
Where do they go? I mean, is there like a, do you have a place that they arrive at when they die, or do they have a special mythology around that?
Yes, they arrive in this underworld. At least the good people. There is another story in the second book about where the bad people they end up,
Oh, wow.
but I won't reveal that here because that's in the second book.
Right, you don't want to give too much away. That people
yes,
kind
exactly.
of read the book and
is,
get an idea.
Yeah, but there is this idea that when a fight is going to happen and blood will be spilled in the ocean, and the ocean will turn red, then the ghosts, they will leave the underworld and they will come to watch.
Oh, that's interesting. It's sort of a Revelations kind of thing going there.
Yeah.
It feels like, was there any inspiration behind that, or is that part of your dream sequences? Or
actually, I don't remember what was my dream or what just happened. I don't think this comes from. I think the words "blood will be spilled tonight" comes from the Lord of the Rings.
Oh wow! Okay, so it's sort of picking up from Tolkien.
That is said quite often. And I was
right.
like, yeah, blood will be spilled. That's interesting. What can I use that for?
Huh. So you're sort of like picking up from the work of Tolkien, sort of taking up and the banner there and moving on. I mean, do you have other literary influences, and not just in fantasy realm, but also in other books? Any other kind of literature that you read?
I'm not sure. I really like Tolkien. I really like Stephanie Meyer too, Twilight being my favorite book, but I don't really write romance. There is romance included in my book, but it's not a romantic book.
Right.
So I don't think anything really comes from there. I'm not sure.
Was there anything that you really enjoy reading, other, not necessarily that goes into the work itself, but just you read just as a pastime?
Yes, I really like to read spiritual things, not like books about spiritual things and how to be spiritual, but more like things that include ghosts, our afterlife. I'm not a big fan of vampires, even though I love Twilight. I think that's more because it was my favorite book when I was young, so it just keeps sticking with me. I really like stories about goblins too, and these kind of creatures you find in Lord of the Rings. So everything medieval fantasy.
Wow, interesting. And so you create your own world out of, like that's one of the factors of, or one of the aspects of a lot of fantasy books. So do you find, I mean, I noticed, I think I remember there's like a map in your book, like a little map.
Yes.
So do you draw these out, or do they, do you imagine them and describe them to somebody, or?
Actually, this one I photoshopped myself. I wish it was better though than this map in the book, but it does give an idea of how it looks and everything. I like the cover a lot better. I photoshopped that myself too.
Oh, I love the cover too. I do like the cover a lot.
Yeah, it's too much spare time because of the lockdown, so I taught myself how to Photoshop my own things for my book.
Okay.
But I do have an artist who works with me right now. He does like character art and things like that because I want to use.
Let's talk about reading culture.
Sorry?
Let's talk about reading culture. Do you think that reading culture is really fading away in this modern time, or you feel that the youth nowadays are reading more than before? As a writer,
I think the youth reads less than before.
right?
Especially, yes, I think so. And I think especially children read less than before. I think maybe it gets better when you get a little older, you might start reading more. But I still don't think it's at the same level as before. But children, they definitely, in my opinion, as a teacher, read way too little. They use their iPads too much, the computers too much. There's too much entertainment, electronic entertainment. The book is just not what they like anymore, and I think it's very sad because I feel that they're missing out on a lot of different amazing worlds in books out there. But it's also I think using an iPad or like games too much, you don't really learn how to be patient, you don't learn how to read, you don't learn how to focus on something for a very long time if you just play something on an app for like 5 minutes and then another app for 5 minutes. I think children could benefit a lot from reading more.
Definitely. And I think also there's studies done that reading, especially fiction, builds empathy in people, because you enter in a whole nother world. You go into a different place with a different set of emotions, and you're entering the author's world also in a way. It is very sad that people are not interested in, and it seems like disregarding this. Do you think maybe there's still a future to literature, or and to writing in general, even though it seems to be in decline amongst the populace?
Yes.
Where there's a war, there must always be a way to. I believe that after having identified the problem, there should be a solution. What solution do you think we can identify to curb this lack of interest in reading?
Oh, that's a very good question, actually. I usually try to engage my students in reading by saying, no iPad, here's a book. But that's more like forcing it on them when they rather want something else. Actually, I don't know. I think ebooks are a great thing because it follows the time, where everything's becoming digitalized. So I think the market for ebooks will continue growing, and there will be less and less physical books. That doesn't bother me too much because I still consider it reading, even though it's an ebook. But actually, I don't know how we're going to solve this problem that people would rather play games than read a book.
Right, a momentary distraction rather than focused and disciplined learning experience.
Yes.
So is there any last thing you'd like to say? We have about 6.5 minutes or so. If there's anything you want to convey to the rest of the world as we're talking to them about anything you'd like to say, especially regarding writing, literature, yourself, if you want to add a couple of things about yourself that you think are important.
I think I just want to say that when you write a book, I believe that it's very, very important that it's edited. like really well edited.
Mhm.
And I could see why someone would criticize a book that's not edited, of course. But if a book is well edited, then I believe that there will always be a market for it. It might not be your book, like the book you would like to read, but maybe there's somebody else outside there, like out there in the world, who would love it. And I think that's something that new authors like me, they often meet these attitudes where you feel, oh, the people, they don't like my book, and then suddenly somebody really loves it and somebody don't like it. So if there is another author out there watching this, I just want to tell them that if somebody doesn't like your book, it's because you haven't found your audience yet, because there will always
Right.
be an audience for everything.
I mean, how many publishers did J.K. Rowling go through before she actually found somebody who was willing to take the book on, and then explodes into an entire empire in and of itself?
Yes.
Is that maybe another author you like, or have you not paid much attention to the Harry Potter series at all?
No, I
I
haven't read
actually
so
want to
much.
ask, I think our viewers would want to know where they can find your book, how they can get your book.
Right.
I think you need to convey that to them.
All right. My book is on Amazon, of course. Soulwanderer by Tina Wittendorff Mortensen. And it can be bought as an ebook and paperback and an audiobook, because I found an amazing narrator called MFA who was kind enough to help me produce it into an ebook. An audiobook, an audiobook. And she's really great. She has narrated a lot of projects. The audiobook is on Kobo, Audible, all platforms basically, so it can be found everywhere. And then I have some short stories as well, which happen to be free today for about 12 more hours, which are called The Earth Ghosts. They are a prequel to my book, and I give them away for free every month. And yeah, the time where they're free will soon be up, but they are still free for the next 12 hours or so.
So get up on that internet in the next 12 hours and jump on the train and grab them. Where can they find those again?
Amazon also,
Amazon?
but only as ebook. They're only as ebook. Yeah. And they're free every month on the 15th and 16th. So it's something I do every month.
Thank you so much, Tina. This is where we'll
uh,
have to put a curtain of this show today. I believe our viewers must have seen something new today again, with our very unique writer from Denmark, currently based in France, who sometimes dreams to get message beyond the message anyway. And that's why sometimes it gets into spirituality. You know, content of our work is unique in our own way too. So she gets the message within this world and outside this word when she gets to another part of the world, as you can get what I'm saying. So we will keep giving you different kind of writers from different parts of the world. We sincerely appreciate your time, Tina. We hope to invite you next time, maybe with another creative writer from another part of the world where you can rub minds together and at least for our viewers to also spread their mind beyond the normal mind they have and enter the creative world. Thank you so much for your time with us. We appreciate your time. Thank you, Dustin. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for hosting this. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Tomorrow, Christine Sloan Stoddard will be on, same time, 5:00 p.m. We'll be on YouTube. Thank you very much again.
And don't forget to subscribe to our channel if you want to get regular updates of this show. It is every day. We have 360 writers from different parts of the world who will be joining us. See you then. Thank you.